The irritable king seemed to be searching for any excuse to make his son's life miserable once again. The short, skinny, and unremarkable prince was set to inherit from Victor Amadeus II, while the king had hoped for someone entirely different. Unfortunately, his favorite son had succumbed to smallpox, leaving the Sardinian ruler with only a pale imitation to rely on. This Carlo Emanuel was so insignificant that he was met with nothing but mockery from the king. King of Sardinia became utterly unbearable after the death of his heir. Victor Amadeus had never been known for his sweetness, but from that moment on, he began to torment his household mercilessly. Most of the king's ire was directed at Carlo Emanuel, the unloved offspring, who was neither particularly bright nor handsome, in short, an unworthy successor. But what choice did they have? Out of 8 royal children, this prince was all that remained. In February of 1722, the heir was married off to the German princess Anna Christina Louise of Sulzbach. The 18-year-old girl impressed Carlo Emanuel so much that he lost his voice upon their first meeting. He was a shy young man by nature. The king, in a crude jest, embarrassed his son, who, as usual, fell silent in response. The girl looked at her fiancé with a puzzled expression. She was still unfamiliar with the ways of the Sardinian court. Was it common for the heir to be treated with such disrespect? When they finally found themselves alone, she brought it up with Carlo Emanuel. That first night, they spent hours in conversation. The prince poured his heart out to his lovely bride, and she listened intently. At last, the heir to the throne was rewarded for his years of humiliation. He had found a kindred spirit. Anna Christina, a few years younger than him, spoke with surprising seriousness and made sound observations. The future king should not be subjected to public ridicule. From that day on, the prince began to change visibly. His wife's influence was undeniable. Carlo Emanuel straightened his shoulders and appeared taller. When his father once again allowed himself a thoughtless comment, he responded politely yet firmly. His Highness would no longer endure insults in silence. For the first time in his life, the King of Sardinia was at a loss for words. Victor Amadeus quickly realized where his son was drawing his newfound confidence from. He envisioned how events might unfold. First open defiance, then a full-blown rebellion, and eventually, Carlo Emanuel would take the throne from him. The heir needed to be reined in, and quickly. At first, they stripped the prince of his hunting privileges. He was forbidden from entering the royal stables or even touching weapons. The favorite pastime of the nobility became off-limits for the heir. Then they took his wife away from him. He was allowed to enter Anna Christina's chamber only once a week. If he stepped out of his quarters at an inappropriate time and headed toward his wife, he was promptly sent back. The princess became a wife on a schedule. Yet, despite these rare meetings, a year later, the young couple welcomed a son, Victor Amadeus Theodore. Alas, his birth cost Anna Christina her life. She died, leaving her husband in a state of utter despair. A year later, the prince was married again, and in that union, he had 6 more children. But his first love for Anna Christina left a lasting impact. It was this young woman who changed the prince's perception of himself. He found the strength to stand up to his father, who grew increasingly unbearable with each passing year. Finally, Victor Amadeus's declining health forced him to abdicate the throne in favor of his son. An important state document was signed to this effect. But the cantankerous former king remained true to himself. Following a stroke, his paranoia tripled, and his irritability surged. He ordered his son to lock himself in the castle and not leave, and when Carlo Emanuel refused, the king attempted to reclaim his throne. But Carlo Emanuel was quicker. Victor Amadeus was arrested and transported to a castle in Rivoli. Now he could neither give orders nor command troops. The tempestuous ruler was securely confined in a fortress. From that point on, nothing hindered Carlo Emanuel's reign. None of his wives, and he married a 3rd time, were treated as mere wives on a schedule. Notably, he cherished all of his 10 children,